Hello everyone and welcome back to Frame English, the podcast that helps you learn English naturally, confidently, and deeply through long, real conversations. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. And if you've been learning with us for a while now, welcome home. Today's episode is something truly special and genuinely important: how to talk about your experiences in English. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode. Your support helps our podcast grow, and it allows us to keep creating long, meaningful lessons just like this one. And in the comments today, I want you to write one short sentence about an experience you had recently. It could be big, small, funny, stressful, anything. Something like, last weekend I went hiking, or yesterday I cooked something new. It's a simple step, but it helps you practice immediately.
And this topic, experiences, is the heart of real conversation. When you meet new people, you don't talk about grammar. You talk about experiences. You talk about things that happened to you, things you saw, things you learned, moments that changed you, or even small things that made you smile. When you go to job interviews, when you travel, when you study, when you connect with friends, people ask questions like, "What was that like? Have you ever tried? Did you enjoy it? How did it feel? What happened next?" Experiences create connection.
Exactly. Experiences make conversations real. They bring emotion, story, and humanity into your English. And the wonderful thing is, everyone has experiences worth sharing, no matter how ordinary they seem. Maybe you traveled somewhere. Maybe you met someone interesting. Maybe you cooked a new meal. Maybe you saw something unusual. Maybe you felt something meaningful. Your experiences are pieces of your life, and English gives you the tools to share them with others.
Now, before we go deeper, let's clarify something very important. When we talk about experiences in English, we don't only mean big adventures or dramatic stories. Experiences can be simple. For example, the first time you tried a new food, the time you learned to ride a bike, a time you felt proud, a moment you overcame a challenge, a small mistake you made, a beautiful sunset you saw. These are experiences, meaningful moments that become stories.
And in this episode, we're going to teach you everything: how to describe past experiences clearly, how to talk about first-time experiences, how to talk about memorable experiences, how to talk about difficult experiences, how to talk about positive, negative, funny, embarrassing, or surprising experiences, how to express emotions, how to describe what you learned from an experience, how to share stories that feel natural, human, and real.
Let's warm up with a simple example. Alice, tell me about a small experience you had this week, something simple.
Okay, this week I tried a new tea blend for the first time. It wasn't anything dramatic or life-changing, but it was a nice experience. The flavor was soft and calming, and I remember thinking, wow, this is actually really good. I enjoyed that small moment.
And listeners, did you hear how natural that sounded? It wasn't a long story. It didn't require advanced vocabulary. Just calm, clear English. Let me share one too. 2 days ago, I had an interesting experience during a walk. I was walking in a quiet neighborhood, and suddenly, I saw a cat sitting on a fence staring at me like it was judging my entire life. It made me laugh. The moment was simple, but it stuck with me because it felt funny and unexpected.
Exactly. Small experiences can be charming, surprising, sweet, or funny. And when you share them, you connect with others.
In today's episode, we will guide you through all types of experiences. But in part 2, we're starting with something simple and universal: how to talk about your everyday experiences. Small experiences, daily moments, things that don't seem important, but actually make life rich.
Before we end part 1, let's give you a warm-up speaking practice. Just repeat or think silently one simple sentence. This week, I experienced. Recently, I had. Yesterday, I. One time, I. Even if your sentence is simple, that's how fluency grows. Softly, slowly, naturally.
Part 2 will take you deeper into real, daily experiences and how to describe them in natural English.
Let's begin today's journey with something wonderfully simple and beautifully universal: everyday experiences. These are the moments that happen to you all the time. Small things, ordinary things, quiet things. The moments that fill your days, even if you don't always notice them. And these experiences are perfect for practicing English because they're natural, honest, and easy to describe.
Exactly. When people talk in real life, they don't always talk about big dramatic events. They talk about small things that happened that day: what they saw, what they heard, what they felt, who they met, what they discovered. For example, I had a funny experience at the supermarket today. I saw something interesting on my way to work. I tried a new coffee, and it tasted amazing. These are everyday experiences, and they create connection.
Let's give you a taste of how this sounds in a natural conversation. Michael, tell me about a small experience you had recently.
Well, yesterday, I got a little moment that made me smile. I was walking down the street when I saw an older couple sitting on a bench holding hands. They were just sitting there quietly, watching people walk by. It was such a simple scene, but it made me feel warm inside. It reminded me that small moments of love exist everywhere, even in busy places.
That's a beautiful example. Simple, gentle, emotional. And notice how he described it. He didn't say too much. He didn't use complicated vocabulary. He just described what he saw, how it made him feel, and why it stayed in his mind. Now let me share one of mine. A few days ago, I experienced something very small, but very peaceful. I woke up early, and when I looked out the window, the sky had this soft pink color. That early morning glow. The world was quiet. No cars, no noise, no movement. Just this beautiful color in the sky. For a few seconds, I just stood there and breathed. It was a simple experience, but it made my morning feel special.
So natural, so human. And that's exactly what we want you to learn: how to describe these moments in a way that feels real.
Hey Michael, did anything interesting happen today?
Actually, yes. I tried a new bakery near my house. They had the best chocolate croissant I've eaten in a long time.
Oh, that sounds amazing. What made it so good?
It was warm, buttery, and super soft. And the chocolate inside tasted fresh. It made my morning.
I love experiences like that. Small things that make your whole day better.
This is how real people talk. Light, simple, warm.
Now let's go deeper. Let's tell a full small story experience, something detailed, but every day. Last week, I had a moment that I still think about. I was waiting for the bus, and it was taking longer than usual. I was a little annoyed and impatient. Then suddenly, a small dog walked up to me and just sat right by my foot. He looked up at me with these warm, friendly eyes. I laughed because it was such a surprise. The dog's owner came and apologized, but I said, "No, it's okay." He made my day. That tiny moment, just a dog sitting next to me, completely changed my mood.
Beautiful example, and so real. Moments like that happen every day, and you can talk about them easily with simple English.
Now here's the key. When you talk about everyday experiences, you don't need big details. You only need 3 things. What happened, how it made you feel, why you remember it. That's it.
Now, let's give listeners one more realistic conversation, this time about an experience at work or school, because these are very common. Alice, something interesting happened at work today.
Oh, what happened?
I was in a meeting, and suddenly the lights went off. Everyone froze for a second, and then we all started laughing. It wasn't serious, just a power glitch, but it turned a boring meeting into a funny memory.
Oh wow, that's actually pretty funny. I love when unexpected moments like that happen. This is exactly how everyday experiences sound in natural conversation.
Now, it's your turn. Take a moment and softly say, "Today I experienced." Recently something small happened. One little moment made me smile. Even a whisper helps your fluency grow.
In part 3, we'll take it deeper into first-time experiences, your first trip, your first job, your first time trying something new, your first time meeting someone important, your first time feeling something unforgettable. It's one of the richest parts of life, and one of the most useful things to learn in English.
Now, we enter one of the most fascinating and emotional parts of talking about your experiences. Your first-time experiences. These moments stay in your memory forever. Your first day at work, your first flight, your first time speaking English with a native speaker, your first new food, your first big challenge, your first success, your first time traveling alone.
Exactly. First times are powerful because they carry emotion, excitement, fear, nervousness, curiosity, surprise. And English has beautiful, simple ways to describe these moments. For example, it was my first time. I had never tried that before. At first, I felt nervous, but then I didn't know what to expect. It turned out better than I thought. These expressions help you tell meaningful and personal stories.
Alice, let's warm up with a simple question. Can you tell us about a first-time experience you had recently?
Sure. A few months ago, I tried kayaking for the first time. At first, I was a little nervous because I don't usually do water activities, and I wasn't sure if I would be good at it. But after a few minutes, I started to relax. The water was calm, the sun was warm, and I felt this peaceful connection with nature. In the end, it was one of the most relaxing experiences I've had in a long time. I'm so glad I tried something new.
That's such a wonderful example, and listeners, notice the structure. First time, how she felt, what happened, what she learned or enjoyed. Now let me share one of mine. My first time cooking for a group of friends was a memorable experience. I was nervous because cooking for yourself is one thing, but cooking for other people feels different. I didn't know if they would like the food, but when they tried it, they smiled and said it tasted great. I felt proud, relieved, and also surprised that something simple could feel so meaningful. That evening taught me that trying new things doesn't have to be scary.
Beautiful story. And this is exactly how first-time experiences connect people. Honestly, gently, sincerely. Now, let's show how this sounds in a conversation. Michael, have you ever tried sushi?
Yes. The first time I tried sushi, I was actually nervous. I didn't know if I would like raw fish.
And how was it?
Surprisingly good. I thought I would hate it, but it was fresh and delicious. I ended up loving it.
That's the amazing thing about first times. You never know what you'll feel.
Now, let's go into a longer, deeper listening story where someone describes their first time traveling alone.
The first time I traveled alone, I was terrified. I remember standing at the airport holding my passport thinking, can I really do this? Everything felt big, new, unfamiliar. But once I got on the plane, something changed. I started to feel excited. When I arrived at my destination, I walked through the streets slowly, taking everything in. The smells, the colors, the sounds. I talked to strangers. I tried new foods. I made small mistakes and learned from them. By the end of the trip, I felt stronger, braver, and somehow different. It wasn't just a trip. It was a moment that changed how I saw myself.
That's the power of first-time experiences. They stay with you. They shape you.
Now your turn, say softly. It was my first time. I had never done that before. At first, I felt, in the end, practice, even quietly, helps you become more confident. In this part, we're moving deeper into the experiences that stay with you, the experiences you never forget. These aren't just small daily moments. These are the experiences that change how you think, how you feel, or how you understand the world. They might be happy, sad, surprising, inspiring, or even confusing, but they stay in your memory for years.
Yes. And English has a beautiful, natural way of expressing these unforgettable moments. People often say things like, "It was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. I'll never forget the moment when that experience changed me. It stayed with me, even now, and still remember how it felt." These expressions bring emotion and depth to your stories.
Let's begin with something personal. Michael, can you tell us about a meaningful experience that has stayed with you? Something that still feels alive in your memory?
Absolutely. One of the most memorable experiences of my life happened a few years ago. I was traveling in a small town, and one morning, I woke up early before sunrise. I walked outside and saw the sky slowly turning from dark blue to orange. It wasn't dramatic, no mountains, no ocean, no famous landmark. Just a quiet street, soft morning light, and absolute silence. I remember standing there thinking, this is one of the most peaceful moments I've ever felt. It wasn't a big event, but that moment of stillness has stayed with me. Whenever I feel stressed, I think about that morning, and I can almost feel the calm again.
That's beautiful, and it shows something very important. Let me share one of mine. A few years ago, I spent a week visiting a small village near the mountains. One evening, a storm arrived. Heavy rain, strong wind, the sound of thunder echoing between the hills. I sat near the window with a cup of warm tea, watching the rain fall. It was dramatic, but it felt strangely comforting. I remember thinking, this moment, this exact moment, is perfect. Even today, I can still feel that warmth, that calm, that sense of being safe inside while the world outside was wild and loud. That memory has stayed with me.
I love that. And listeners, notice again how simple this language is. Powerful experiences are emotional, but the English used to describe them doesn't need to be complicated.
Now let's give you a natural conversation between two friends talking about a memorable experience. Michael, do you have a moment you'll never forget?
Yes, actually, a few years ago, I went on a night hike. We reached the top of the hill around midnight, and when I looked up, the sky was full of stars. I had never seen the sky so bright in my life.
That must have been incredible.
It was. I still remember that feeling like the universe was right in front of me.
I love experiences like that. They change how you see everything.
Now, let's go deeper into more emotional storytelling. Here is a longer listening story about a memorable experience that changed someone's perspective.
When I was younger, I had an experience that changed the way I look at life. One afternoon, I visited a small art museum. I didn't expect anything special, I just wanted to pass time. But then I saw a painting that stopped me. It showed a simple scene. A woman sitting alone by a window. Nothing dramatic. But the emotion in her face, a mix of sadness and hope, touched me deeply. I stood there for almost 20 minutes just looking at her expression, wondering who she was and what she felt. That moment made me realize something. We never know what people are carrying inside. Since then, I've tried to be more patient, more understanding, kinder. It was just a painting, but it changed something in me.
That's an extraordinary example. And listeners, notice how Alice described the experience. Not with fancy words, not with complicated grammar, but with emotion, reflection, and truth.
Now it's your turn. Say something softly. One of the most memorable experiences I've had was, I'll never forget the time when that moment stayed with me because you don't need to tell the whole story. Just the beginning.
In part 5, we're taking another deep turn into difficult or challenging experiences, and how to express them gently, safely, and naturally in English.
In this part, we're going to talk about something every human experiences, but not everyone knows how to express easily. Difficult, uncomfortable, or emotional experiences. Moments when things didn't go well. Moments when you felt sad, frustrated, disappointed, afraid, confused, or overwhelmed. These moments are part of life, and often, they are the experiences that shape us the most.
Yes, and when people try to talk about these moments in English, they sometimes feel nervous because they think their English needs to be perfect. But that's not true. Emotional experiences require simple, honest language like, it was a really difficult moment. I didn't know what to do. I felt overwhelmed. I was scared at first. It taught me something important. I learned a lot from that experience.
Let's start gently. Michael, can you share a moment that was difficult for you, but that taught you something?
Sure. A long time ago, I had an experience at work that really challenged me. I had to give a presentation to a big group of people. I was nervous the entire week before. I couldn't sleep well. I felt anxious. I kept imagining things going wrong. And during the presentation, I made a small mistake. My mind went blank for a moment, and I felt embarrassed. But instead of panicking, I took a deep breath, smiled, and continued. Afterward, I realized something: mistakes don't destroy you. They teach you. That difficult moment became one of the most important experiences of my life because it showed me I'm stronger than I thought.
That's such a powerful story, and it's important because difficult experiences often show us who we are. Let me share one of mine. A few years ago, I moved to a new city. I didn't know anyone there, and for the first few weeks, I felt lost and lonely. Everything was unfamiliar. The streets, the people, the culture. I remember one evening sitting in my small apartment, feeling sad and wondering if I had made a mistake. But over time, I slowly started to adapt. I found new routines, met new people, and built a life there. That difficult beginning taught me resilience. It taught me that even when things feel uncertain, you can grow through the experience.
Thank you for sharing that. And listeners, notice how Alice described her emotions clearly but calmly. That's the key.
Now let's demonstrate how difficult experiences sound in everyday conversations. You look tired. Everything okay?
Yeah, I had a rough day. I made a mistake at work, and it stressed me out.
I'm sorry to hear that. Do you want to talk about it?
Maybe later. I just need some time to relax first.
This is real English. Gentle, soft, supportive.
Now, let's move into a longer listening story, something emotional but human. Some years ago, I went through a difficult period. I was working too much, sleeping too little, and feeling stressed every day. One evening, I reached a point where I just sat down and felt completely exhausted physically and emotionally. I didn't know what to do, but that night changed me. I realized I needed to slow down, take care of myself, and create balance in my life. I started taking walks, reading more, resting when I needed to. That difficult experience taught me something I needed to learn. You must take care of your mind and your body. It was painful, but it helped me grow.
That was powerful and beautifully human. Now your turn. Say softly. One difficult experience I had was, it was hard but I learned. Even if your sentence is short, it matters.
In part 6, we'll explore funny, surprising, and unexpected experiences, the stories that make people laugh and bring joy to conversations.
After exploring everyday, memorable, and difficult experiences, it's time for something lighter. The kind of experiences that make people laugh, smile, or say, "Wow, seriously?" These are the stories that brighten conversations, make people feel comfortable, and bring humor and connection. Talking about funny or surprising experiences is a huge part of natural English.
Yes, and these are often the easiest to remember because they stand out. They're the stories you tell your friends, your coworkers, even strangers. Think about things like a funny mistake you made, something weird that happened in public, a surprising moment at work, a strange misunderstanding, an unexpected encounter, a lucky or unlucky situation. And English gives you great expressions to describe these moments, like, "I didn't expect that at all. It was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. It was so embarrassing. Something strange happened. You won't believe what happened next."
Let's start with a personal example. Michael, can you tell us about a funny or surprising experience you've had?
Oh, I have so many, but let me share one that still makes me laugh years later. One time, I was in a cafe doing some work. I had my headphones on, listening to music so I couldn't hear anything around me. At one point, I felt someone tapping my shoulder. I turned around and saw a woman smiling at me. I took off my headphones and she said, "Excuse me, you're singing." I froze. Apparently, I had been quietly singing out loud the entire time, not loudly, but loud enough for people around me to hear. The whole cafe was looking at me and smiling. I felt embarrassed at first, but then I started laughing too. It was unexpected, but now, it's one of my favorite funny memories.
That's such a good one. And listeners, notice how simple the language is. Funny experiences don't need complicated vocabulary. They need honest storytelling. Let me share mine. A few months ago, I had a surprising experience in a supermarket. I was walking through the fruit section, looking for oranges. I picked one up to smell it, just to see if it smelled fresh. Then suddenly, a little kid next to me said, very seriously, "You smell fruit too? My mom thinks it's weird." I burst out laughing. His mother looked surprised and then started laughing too. It was such a funny moment, completely unexpected, and it made my whole afternoon brighter.
That's adorable. And these moments are exactly what make life interesting.
Now let's give listeners an example of how two friends naturally talk about funny or surprising experiences. Michael, did anything funny happen to you this week?
Actually, yes. I walked into a glass door.
Oh no, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. But it was embarrassing. The door was so clean, I didn't even see it.
I shouldn't laugh, but that's really funny.
Trust me, everyone else laughed too. Those light conversations make people comfortable, and they show personality.
Now let's create a more detailed storytelling experience, a funny moment many people can relate to, a misunderstanding. A few years ago, I had dinner with a friend at a restaurant. When the waiter came, I tried to order water. I said it clearly, or at least I thought I did. But the waiter looked confused and said, "You want butter?" I said no water. He nodded and walked away. A few minutes later, he returned with a plate of butter. My friend laughed so hard she almost fell off her chair. I didn't know whether to laugh or hide, but eventually I started laughing too. We finally got our water, but the waiter kept smiling at me the whole evening. It was embarrassing, but also funny, and now it's a story I love telling.
That's an amazing example of a misunderstanding, and listeners, you'll notice misunderstandings often become the funniest stories.
Now it's your turn. Try saying softly. One funny thing that happened to me was, I didn't expect that at all. It made me laugh because you don't need a long story. Just a few words will help your fluency grow.
In part 7, we're moving into a long, immersive listening practice, a full storytelling experience that mixes everyday moments, first times, memories, challenges, and surprises all in one. This will help you train your ear to hear how experiences are shared in real English.
Now it's time for one of the most powerful learning tools, a full, deep listening story containing different types of experiences, everyday moments, first-time feelings, memories, challenges, funny surprises, peaceful moments, and reflections. Your only job is to listen. Not to understand every word, not to translate, just to follow the flow of English and feel the rhythm. Picture yourself walking through someone's memories with them. Let the story pull you in. This is how real fluency grows. Last year was one of the most interesting years of my life. It started quietly, the same routine, the same schedule, the same familiar days. But little by little, the year filled itself with experiences I never expected.
One of the first things that happened was a small, everyday moment. One morning, I stepped outside and saw a rainbow stretching across the sky. It only lasted a minute, but something about it felt magical. It reminded me to pay attention to small beauty. A few months later, I had a first-time experience. I tried rock climbing. At first, I was terrified. My hands were shaking, and I didn't think I could do it. But step by step, I climbed higher until suddenly I reached the top. I remember looking down and thinking, I did something I never believed I could. That moment stayed with me. In the summer, I had one of the most memorable experiences I'll never forget. I traveled to a small coastal town. One evening, I walked along the beach alone. The sunset was incredible, orange, pink, purple, all blending together. The air felt warm, and the sound of the waves was calming. I remember thinking, this moment is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Of course, not everything was perfect. In the middle of the year, I had a difficult experience at work. I made a mistake that affected my whole team. I felt terrible, embarrassed, stressed, unsure of myself. But instead of giving up, I learned from it. I apologized, fixed what I could, and moved on. It was painful, but it made me stronger. Then there was the funny experience, the one that still makes me laugh. I was walking home carrying a bag of groceries, and suddenly the bottom of the bag ripped open. Apples rolled everywhere. People around me started helping me pick them up. We all laughed together, even though it was embarrassing. And finally, near the end of the year, I had a moment that surprised me. I reconnected with an old friend I hadn't spoken to in years. We talked for hours, catching up on everything we had missed. It reminded me that people come back into your life when you least expect it. Looking back, the year wasn't perfect, but it was full of small joys, scary first steps, mistakes, surprises, laughter, and quiet moments. And that combination of experiences is what made it real.
That was beautifully told, simple, emotional, vivid. And listeners, if you understood even half of that story, you're improving. Now let's reflect with a few gentle questions. Not a test, just thinking. Which experience in the story was your favorite? Which one felt relatable? Have you ever had a similar moment? What type of experience teaches you the most? What experience from your own life comes to mind right now?
Now try these short speaking prompts. Say them softly. Last year I experienced. One memory I'll never forget is. A funny thing that happened to me was. One challenge taught me. Each sentence grows your fluency. In part 8, the final part, will bring everything together. Emotional reflection, speaking practice, a final review, and a beautiful motivational closing to help you continue sharing your life in English. And here, we are the final part of this long journey. If you're still listening, you've just completed a full, deep, emotional exploration of one of the most important skills in English, talking about your
experiences. This wasn't just a lesson about vocabulary or grammar. It was a journey through your memories, your stories, your emotions, and your life.
Yes. And we want to start by saying this. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. Most people never take the time to truly learn how to express their experiences. But you did. You listened to long stories. You practiced speaking. You connected with emotion. You allowed yourself to grow.
Let's take a moment to reflect on everything you learned today. Slowly, softly, with appreciation. We began with the everyday experiences, the little moments that make your days meaningful. Small encounters, small joys, small details. You learned how to say, "Today I experienced. I saw something interesting. I had a moment that made me smile." These are the foundation of real conversation.
Then we moved into first-time experiences, where you learned to express excitement, nervousness, curiosity, and discovery. I tried something for the first time. At first, I felt nervous. But in the end, it was amazing. These moments show growth and courage.
After that, we explored memorable experiences, the ones that stay in your heart. It was unforgettable. I'll never forget the moment when it changed me. These experiences connect you with others deeply and honestly.
Then we entered the emotional side. Difficult and challenging experiences. Not easy to talk about, but so important. I didn't know what to do. I felt overwhelmed, but I learned from it. These sentences show vulnerability, and vulnerability builds trust.
In part 6, we brought lightness and joy with funny, surprising, and unexpected experiences. I didn't expect that at all. It was so funny, I couldn't stop laughing. These experiences bring laughter and humanity into your English.
And then came the long, beautiful listening story, a mixture of all types of experiences woven together, showing how a real life is full of contrasts, quiet mornings, emotional lessons, funny surprises, first-time adventures, peaceful moments, and connections that return unexpectedly.
Now, before we close, it's time for your final speaking practice. You don't need to speak loudly. You don't need to speak perfectly. Just speak softly, honestly, like you're talking to a friend. Repeat after me or create your own version. One experience I had recently was, it made me feel, I'll never forget the moment when, at first I felt nervous, but then one funny experience I had was, one challenge taught me that. One memory that stays with me is,
Now, take a deep breath. You just practiced real English. Emotional English, human English. That is powerful.
Before we say goodbye, we want to share something important. Every experience you've ever had, big, small, painful, joyful, surprising, has shaped you. And now you know how to express those experiences in English. That means you can share your life with people. You can connect. You can tell your story. And your story matters.
And we want to ask one small thing that truly helps us continue creating long lessons like this. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode. And today in the comments, write one experience from your life. It can be something small, something funny, something difficult, something recent, something old, anything.
We read every single comment. We feel your stories. We appreciate your courage. Your experiences are important, and we are honored that you share them with us.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you for listening deeply. Thank you for trusting us with your learning journey.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, keep sharing your experiences, and keep being gentle with yourself. You're not learning English alone. We're right here beside you.
This has been Fluent English. Until next time, take care, stay inspired, and keep growing.